The message arrived at Earth Central Command at exactly 3:47 a.m. Commander Alan Wright was reviewing star charts when the alert flashed across his screen. He sat up straight, his coffee forgotten, as he read the words that would change humanity forever. Unknown vessels detected at system edge, not matching any known signatures. Alan's heart beat faster. First contact. After generations of searching the stars, they had finally found other life, or rather, other life had found them. "Get me Admiral Patterson," Alan said to his computer, "and wake up the command staff." Within 30 minutes, the dark command center hummed with activity. Screens displayed the approaching ships, dozens of them moving in perfect formation. Initial scans suggested they were large, heavily armed, and unlike anything humans had built. "Open a channel on all frequencies," ordered Admiral George Patterson, a tall man with gray hair who had served in the United Earth Defense Fleet for over 40 years. Standard greeting protocol. Captain Susan Miller, tactical officer and second in command, worked quickly at her station. "Channel open, sir," she said. Her fingers moved across the screen, sending humanity's carefully crafted first contact message, a simple greeting of peace in multiple formats that any advanced species should understand. The response came quickly. Too quickly. The main screen filled with the image of a being that looked almost like a reptile standing upright. Its scales shimmered purple and gold, and multiple eyes blinked at different times. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the ship's computer into flat, emotionless English. "Humans of Earth. I am Supreme War Master Krazathul of the Zeltari Imperium. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. Surrender, now, and become a useful client species. Resist, and we will take what we want anyway." The command center fell silent. This was not how anyone had imagined first contact. Admiral Patterson stepped forward. "This is Admiral Patterson of Earth. We do not accept your terms. We suggest peaceful discussion instead." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Our scans show your defenses are minimal. Your fleet is small. Your technology is primitive. You have no choice." Lieutenant Olivia Green, the young communications specialist, frowned at her screen. "Sir," she whispered to Commander Wright, "I'm picking up encrypted transmissions between their ships. They're preparing to attack." Alan looked at Admiral Patterson and nodded slightly. The Admiral's face hardened. "We will defend ourselves if necessary," Patterson said to the alien, "but we hope it doesn't come to that." "Your hope is irrelevant," said Krazathul. "We will arrive at your planet in 6 hours. Prepare to be conquered." The screen went dark. "Kadiao. Stations," ordered Patterson immediately. "And contact Earth government, they need to know." The next few hours passed in controlled chaos. Defense systems around Earth activated. Civilian ships were ordered to land or move to safe zones, and the United Earth Defense Fleet prepared for battle. "What's our strategy, sir?" asked Captain Miller as they reviewed the alien fleet's approach. Admiral Patterson smiled slightly. "They think we're weak, Captain. Let's not correct that mistake just yet." He turned to Commander Wright. "Alan, deploy our welcome committee. 5 ships only." Susan looked shocked. 5? Against their armada? "Sir, we have 30 ships ready to fight, and they'll stay hidden for now," said Patterson. "Implement Phoenix Rising Protocol." Understanding dawned on Susan's face. "Yes, sir." Commander Wright sent the orders. 5 human ships moved into position. The UES Defiant, UES Intrepid, UES Valiant, UES Dauntless, and UES Resolute. To the alien sensors, they would appear as small frigates, barely armed and certainly no match for the Zeltari fleet. In orbit around Earth's moon, engineer Jack Nelson watched from the control room of Luna Base. 2 years ago, his team had completed the most secret project in human history, dimensional compression technology. Today, they would see if it worked in real combat. "All ships report ready, sir," said Susan. On the main view screen, they watched as the Zeltari fleet approached. 50 warships, each one larger than anything humans had built, or so the aliens thought. "They're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Green, the reptilian face of Kraz Thul appeared once more. His multiple eyes widened slightly at the sight of only 5 ships moving to intercept his fleet. "This is your defense?" he asked, his translated voice filled with amusement. 5 tiny vessels against our might? I expected more from a species that has survived this long. Admiral Patterson stood tall. "These 5 ships are all we need, War Master." The alien commander made that strange laughing sound again. "You cannot be serious. Our smallest scout ship could destroy your entire fleet." "Perhaps," said Patterson calmly. "Or perhaps you should scan our ships again." Krazthul gestured to someone off-screen. A moment passed. Then the alien's expression changed. "What trickery is this?" he demanded. "Our first scans showed minimal weapons. Now we detect. This cannot be right." "No trickery, War Master," said Patterson. "Just technology you couldn't understand." On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Commander Wright gave the order they had all been waiting for. "All ships, disengage. Compression fields. Show them who we really are." In the cold space between Earth and its moon, something impossible happened. The 5 human ships began to change. Their hulls seemed to unfold, expand, and grow. What had appeared as 200-meter frigates transformed into massive warships, each more than a kilometer long. Hidden weapon systems came online, and shields that had been invisible to alien scans suddenly glowed with power. The Zeltari War Master's many eyes blinked rapidly. "Impossible," he whispered. Lieutenant Green, monitoring the alien communications, turned to Commander Wright. "Sir, they're ordering all ships to open fire." Allen nodded grimly. "So be it. All ships, prepare to engage." Captain Miller stepped up beside him. "Phoenix Rising complete, sir. All ships at full combat capability." The first shots from the alien fleet streaked across space toward the human ships. Everyone in Earth Command held their breath. This was the moment of truth. Would Jack Nelson's shields work as well as his compression technology? The alien weapons hit the UES Defiant head-on and bounced off harmlessly. "Shields holding at 98%, reported Captain Miller with a smile. "They didn't even scratch us." Commander Wright looked at Admiral Patterson, who nodded once. "All ships," said Wright into the fleet-wide channel. "Show them what humans can really do." The human ships fired back. The UES Defiant launched what looked like small blue streaks of light. They moved slowly at first, almost lazy in their approach toward the massive Zeltari vessels. Then they suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. 3. Alien ships exploded at once. On Luna Base, Jack Nelson pumped his fist in the air. "The quantum torpedoes work," he shouted to his team of engineers. After years of research, their weapons performed perfectly in real combat. Back on the Defiant, Commander Wright watched the alien fleet carefully. The Zeltari ships were regrouping, changing formation after the unexpected loss of 3 vessels. "They're adapting quickly," said Captain Miller. "That's not good." "But they're confused," replied Wright. "And that's very good." On the main screen, the face of War Master Krazathul appeared again. His scales had darkened to a deep purple, which Admiral Patterson guessed meant anger or surprise. "What trickery is this?" demanded the alien. "Our scans showed nothing of these capabilities." Admiral Patterson smiled slightly. "No trickery, War Master. Just technology beyond your understanding. We suggest you withdraw while you still can." The alien commander hissed. "The Zeltari Imperium does not retreat. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. You will be no different." The screen went dark again. "All ships prepare for their main attack," ordered Wright. "They'll come at us with everything now." He was right. The alien fleet spread out into an attack formation that looked like a giant claw. Dozens of energy beams shot toward the human ships. "Evasive maneuvers," commanded Wright. The 5 human vessels moved with surprising speed and grace for their size. The UES Valiant spun on its axis, narrowly avoiding 3 energy beams. The UES Intrepid dived beneath the attack pattern completely. "Our ships are faster than theirs," noted Lieutenant Olivia Green. They didn't expect that either. But not all attacks missed. The UES Dauntless took a direct hit from one of the larger Zeltari warships. "Dauntless reports shields at 67%, said Captain Miller. "That was their main weapon." Commander Wright nodded. Now we know what they can do. Time to show them more of what we can do. Order the Resolute to deploy drones. From the side of the UES Resolute, hundreds of small objects poured out into space. Each was no bigger than a human hand, but they moved with purpose, forming complex patterns around the human fleet. "What are those?" demanded Krazathul when his face appeared on screen again. "More of your deceptions?" "Defense drones," explained Patterson calmly. "Another technology you might find interesting." As if on cue, the alien fleet fired again. This time, the small drones intercepted the energy beams, absorbing or deflecting them away from the human ships. "Not a single hit got through," reported Captain Miller with a smile. In the Zeltari command ship, War Master Krazathul was losing patience. His carefully planned conquest was falling apart because of impossible human technology. He turned to his second-in-command. "Deploy the scatter missiles," he ordered. "They cannot stop thousands of projectiles at once." The order was carried out immediately. From the Zeltari ships came streams of small missiles, each one programmed to find its own path to the human vessels. There were thousands, perhaps tens, of thousands. On the Defiant, Commander Wright watched the approaching swarm with a calm expression. "They think they've found our weakness," he said. He turned to Captain Miller. "Susan, you may engage the barrier field." Captain Miller pressed a sequence on her control panel. Barrier field activated. In space between the human and alien fleets, the air seemed to ripple. There was no visible shield, no energy field that could be seen, but when the Zeltari missiles reached a certain point, they simply stopped, frozen in space as if they had hit a solid wall. "What is this?" Krazathul's voice was filled with genuine fear now. "This is impossible." Admiral Patterson leaned forward. "War Master, I will explain. What you're seeing is a localized time dilation field. Inside that barrier, time has slowed to almost a stop. Your missiles are still moving, but it would take them 1,000 years to cross a few meters." The command center fell silent as everyone watched the alien's reaction. Krazathul's many eyes blinked rapidly. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed his head slightly. "I have underestimated you humans," he said. "This technology, it is beyond anything we have encountered before." Lieutenant Green frowned at her station. "Sir," she said to Commander Wright, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from their main ship. They're powering up something big." Wright looked at Admiral Patterson, who nodded. "War Master," said Wright, "our scans show you're charging a weapon. I advise against this course of action." "You have forced my hand, Commander," replied Krazathul. "The High Command would execute me for retreating. I must use our final option." The largest ship in the Zeltari fleet began to glow with a strange, green light. Parts of its hull moved aside, revealing what looked like an enormous cannon. "All ships, full power to shields," ordered Wright immediately. "Prepare for impact." Jack Nelson's voice came over the communication system from Luna Base. "Commander, our simulations show that weapon could be a planet killer. If it hits Earth..." "It won't," said Wright firmly. Captain Miller looked worried. "Sir, even with our technology, we may not be able to stop something of that magnitude." Wright turned to Admiral Patterson. "Sir, permission to implement scattered stars?" Patterson nodded grimly. "Do it." Wright opened a channel to all 5 human ships. "All captains, implement scattered stars formation. Don't wait for my mark, execute immediately." The 5 human ships suddenly broke formation. They moved in what seemed like random directions, but there was a pattern to their chaos, a complex mathematical equation developed by Dr. Frank Wilson, the fleet's tactical analyst. From the Zeltari perspective, the human ships appeared to be in disarray, panicking, at the sight of their superweapon. Krazathul smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Fire the World Breaker," he commanded. The massive weapon on his flagship discharged. A beam of intense green energy shot through space toward where the human ships had been clustered moments before. But now they were elsewhere, moving in their carefully planned pattern. "Now," said Commander Wright. All 5 human ships fired at once, not at the Zeltari fleet, but at specific points in space around the giant energy beam. The human weapons created what looked like small black holes, tiny points of intense gravity. The green beam began to bend and curve as it passed near these gravity points. Instead of continuing toward Earth, it curved back around, forming an enormous arc in space, and headed straight back toward the Zeltari fleet. The green beam curved through space in a perfect arc. War Master Krasthul watched in horror as his own superweapon turned back toward his fleet. He had only seconds to react. "Evasive maneuvers," he screamed. "All ships scatter." The Zeltari fleet tried to move, but they had been arranged in a tight formation to focus their firepower. Now that same formation became their weakness. Ships crashed into each other as they attempted to flee. The redirected beam struck the left flank of the Zeltari fleet. 3 warships disappeared instantly. 7 more were badly damaged, spinning out of control with their engines dead. On the UES Defiant, the crew cheered. Commander Wright allowed them this moment of victory, but he knew the battle was far from over. 37 alien ships remained, still outnumbering the human fleet by more than 7 to 1. "Captain Miller," he said. "Status of the gravity. Focus system?" Susan checked her readings. "We can redirect 1 more energy weapon of that size, but then the system needs to cool down." Wright nodded. "Let's hope they don't try that again." On Luna Base, Jack Nelson was analyzing the battle data. "The Zeltari ships have an interesting weakness," he told his team. "Their shield generators are all in the same location, the lower rear quadrant. If we can target that spot specifically..." He sent his findings to the Defiant. When Commander Wright received them, he immediately understood the advantage they provided. "All ships," he ordered. "Target your weapons on the coordinates engineer Nelson has identified. Aim for the lower rear section of each Zeltari vessel." The 5 human ships adjusted their firing patterns. Now, instead of trying to overwhelm the alien shields with brute force, they launched precise strikes at the vulnerable points Jack had discovered. The effect was immediate. 2 Zeltari ships lost shield power completely. 4 more showed flickering shield patterns as they tried to compensate for the damage. War Master Krasthul slammed his fist on the arm of his command chair. "How are they doing this? How do they know our weaknesses?" His technology officer, a smaller Zeltari with lighter-colored scales, approached nervously. "War Master, I believe they are analyzing our ships during battle. Their sensors must be more advanced than we thought. They are learning as they fight," Krasthul hissed in frustration. "Then we must end this quickly. Launch all fighter craft, overwhelm them with numbers." From the larger Zeltari ships came swarms of smaller vessels, each about the size of a bus. There were hundreds of them, perhaps 1,000, all heading toward the 5 human ships. Lieutenant Green saw them first. "Commander, we have incoming fighters, many of them." Wright studied the tactical display. This was a new challenge. The human ships were powerful, but their main weapons were designed to fight. Capital ships, not swarms of small fighters. "Captain Miller," he said, "are the interceptor drones ready?" Susan nodded. "Yes, sir. We have 200 per ship." "Launch them all," ordered Wright, "and contact Dr. Wilson. Tell him to activate the hive mind protocol." From each human ship came streams of small drones, similar to the defensive ones they had used earlier but equipped differently. These moved with incredible speed, chasing after the Zeltari fighters. Back on Earth, in a secure room deep beneath the ocean, Dr. Frank Wilson sat surrounded by holographic displays. When he received the message from Commander Wright, he entered a complex code into his system. "Hive mind protocol active," he said to himself. "Let's see how they handle this." In space, the human drones suddenly changed their behavior. Instead of acting independently, they began moving as if they shared a single consciousness. They formed complex shifting patterns that the Zeltari fighters couldn't predict. When the 2 swarms met, it seemed at first that the aliens had the advantage. Their fighters outnumbered the human drones 5 to 1. But the drones moved with perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly what all the others were doing. 3 drones would work together to take down a single fighter. One would draw its fire, another would disable its shields, and the third would deliver the killing blow. Then they would immediately split up and join other groups targeting different fighters. "It's beautiful," whispered Lieutenant Green as she watched the battle unfold. Even with their superior numbers, the Zeltari fighters were being decimated. In just minutes, over half had been destroyed, while only a few dozen human drones had been lost. War Master Krazathul couldn't believe what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No species we have encountered has technology like this. Who are these humans?" His second-in-command approached cautiously. "War Master, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. We could return with a larger fleet." Krazathul spun around, his scales darkening to almost black. "The Zeltari do not retreat. We will destroy these humans or die trying." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their command ship. Concentrate all firepower from our remaining vessels on the largest human ship." The Zeltari fleet regrouped. 25 ships arranged themselves in a new formation, all aiming at the UES Defiant. Admiral Patterson saw what was happening. "Right. They're targeting you specifically, all their remaining ships." Commander Wright nodded calmly. "I see it. Sir, permission to implement Mirage Protocol?" "Granted," said Patterson after a moment of thought. "But be careful. We've never tested it in actual combat." Wright opened a channel to all ships. "All captains, prepare for Mirage Protocol on my mark." He looked at Captain Miller. "Susan, are you ready?" She nodded, though her face showed concern. "Yes, sir, but if this doesn't work—" "It will work," said Wright confidently. "Engineer Nelson assured me it would." As the Zeltari fleet prepared to fire, Wright gave the order. "Mirage Protocol now." The 5 human ships activated yet another hidden system. Their outer hulls began to shimmer and flicker. Suddenly, where there had been 5 ships, there now appeared to be 25, exact duplicates of the original vessels, arranged in a defensive sphere. On the Zeltari command ship, the tactical officer stared at his screen in confusion. "War Master, I'm detecting multiple copies of their ships. I can't tell which are real." "That's impossible," shouted Krazathul. "They must be holograms. Fire at all of them." The Zeltari fleet opened fire, sending energy beams at all the human ships, both real and illusory. But to their shock, every beam that hit an illusory ship was somehow deflected back toward the Zeltari fleet. What the aliens didn't understand was that the copies weren't simple holograms. They were reflective energy constructs, 3-dimensional mirrors that could bounce weapons fire back at its source. 5 more Zeltari ships were hit by their own weapons. 3 exploded immediately. 2 more drifted, severely damaged. Meanwhile, the real human ships, hidden among their copies, launched a coordinated attack on the aliens' flagship. The UES Intrepid and UES Valiant fired quantum torpedoes, while the UES Dauntless and UES Resolute launched gravity disruptors. The combined assault overwhelmed the flagship's shields. Explosions rippled across its hull as systems failed throughout the massive vessel. On the bridge, War Master Krazathul held onto his command chair as the ship shook violently around him. Warning alarms blared from every station. "Damage report," he demanded. His technology officer looked up from his screen, his scales pale with fear. "Shields failing, weapons offline, engine power at 20%. We are defeated, War Master." For the first time in his long military career, Krazathul faced the unthinkable. He was losing a battle he had been certain he would win. And worse, he was losing to a species that had been dismissed as primitive by Zeltari intelligence. He opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "Commander Wright," he said, his voice now lacking its earlier arrogance, "I request a ceasefire to discuss terms." Commander Wright looked at Admiral Patterson, waiting for his decision. The Admiral nodded once, and Wright opened a channel to respond to the Zeltari War Master. "We accept your request for a ceasefire," said Wright. "Stop all attacks immediately, and power down your weapons systems." On the damaged Zeltari flagship, War Master Krazathul gave the necessary orders. Throughout what remained of his once mighty fleet, weapons powered down and targeting systems went offline. All Zeltari ships have ceased fire, reported Lieutenant Green. Their weapon systems are powering down. Wright turned to Captain Miller. Keep our shields at maximum. This could be a trick. Admiral Patterson spoke from Earth Command. Commander, Wright, I want you to board the Zeltari flagship for direct negotiations. Take Captain Miller and a small security team. We need to understand who these aliens are and why they attacked us. Yes, sir, replied Wright. He looked at Susan. Ready for a close encounter? She nodded, though her expression was serious. Let's hope they're better at talking than they are at listening. A small shuttle left the UES Defiant, carrying Commander Wright, Captain Miller, and 4 security officers. As they approached the massive Zeltari flagship, they could see the damage their weapons had caused. Large sections of the hull were torn open, and internal fires flickered through the gaps. Their ship design is interesting, noted Susan as they approached a docking bay. The technology looks advanced in some ways, but almost primitive in others, Wright agreed. Almost like they've borrowed technology from different sources without fully understanding it. The shuttle docked inside the alien ship. The human team exited cautiously, weapons ready but not pointed directly at the aliens who waited for them. War Master Krazathul stood at the front, flanked by several officers. Up close, the Zeltari were even more intimidating, nearly 7 feet tall with powerful muscles beneath their scaled skin. Commander Wright, said Krazathul, his voice now lacking its earlier arrogance. I welcome you aboard, though I wish the circumstances were different. Wright kept his expression neutral. As do we, War Master. We did not seek this conflict. The alien gestured for them to follow. Please come to our command center where we can speak more comfortably. As they walked through the ship, Captain Miller quietly activated a small device on her wrist. It would scan and record everything they saw. The Zeltari ship was a strange mix of advanced technology and almost crude construction. Pipes and conduits ran exposed along corridors. Control panels sparked from battle damage. They reached the command center, which was still functioning despite the damage to the ship. Krazathul dismissed most of his officers, keeping only 2 at his side. I must know, said the War Master once they were seated. How did your ships hide their true nature from our scans? How did you redirect our planet-killer weapon? These technologies are beyond anything we have encountered. Wright chose his words carefully. Humanity has faced many challenges in our history. We learned to be creative with our solutions. What you saw today represents only a fraction of our capabilities. This was not entirely true, but Wright had no intention of revealing Earth's actual military strength to a potential enemy. Krazathul seemed to accept this. I have underestimated your species, Commander. Our intelligence reports classified Earth as a low-level civilization, barely capable of interstellar travel. Where did you get these reports? Asked Captain Miller. The War Master hesitated before answering. From the Director. Who is the Director? Asked Wright. Instead of answering directly, Krazathul touched a control on the table. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room, a strange symbol that looked like a spiral with 3 eyes embedded in it. The Director is not a who, but a what, explained Krazathul. An artificial intelligence created long ago by those we call the Ancestors. It guides the Zeltari Imperium. It chooses our targets, our conquests. It provides our advanced technology. Wright and Miller exchanged glances. This was an unexpected revelation. And this Director ordered you to attack Earth? Asked Wright. Yes, said Krazathul. It said your world had resources we needed and that your species would be easily conquered. It was incorrect. Captain Miller studied the strange symbol. Where is this AI located? On your homeworld? No, replied the War Master. The Director exists within our most sacred vessel, the World Render. It is approaching your system now, scheduled to arrive within 6 hours. Wright felt a chill. Another ship, larger than your fleet? Krazathul's scales shifted to a deep blue color. The World Render is not just a ship. It is a mobile planetoid, 20 kilometers in diameter, with weapons that can destroy entire worlds. Your impressive technology will not be enough to stop. The commander kept his expression neutral, but inwardly he was deeply concerned. Why are you telling us this? Aren't you loyal to this director? The alien War Master stood and walked to a damaged view screen. The Zeltari have served the director for 10 generations. In all that time, it has never been wrong. Until today. Its assessment of your capabilities was completely incorrect. This makes me question everything we have been told. One of the other Zeltari officers stepped forward. The director claims to guide us for our benefit, but we are always the ones who fight and die. Perhaps it does not value Zeltari lives as much as it claims. Back on Earth, Admiral Patterson received Wright's transmission about the approaching world render with grave concern. He immediately called a meeting with Earth's Defense Council. We have approximately 6 hours before a much larger alien vessel arrives, he told them. According to the Zeltari commander, it houses an artificial intelligence that has been manipulating their species for generations. Jack Nelson spoke up from his position at Luna Base. Sir, if this vessel is as large as they claim, our current weapons may not be effective against it. Dr. Frank Wilson, joining via secure channel from his underwater lab, nodded in agreement. We need a new approach. Perhaps we can use what we've learned about Zeltari technology to find a weakness. Admiral Patterson looked around the table. We need options, people. Commander Wright is still aboard the alien flagship gathering intelligence. Captain Miller is scanning their systems for anything useful. But we need a plan to defend Earth against this new threat. Lieutenant Nancy Baker, the intelligence officer who had been analyzing the battle data, raised her hand. Sir, I've been studying the Zeltari communication protocols. They use an unusual form of quantum entanglement for their transmissions. If this AI is controlling their fleet through similar means, we might be able to intercept or even alter those communications, finished Patterson, seeing where she was going. Excellent work, Lieutenant. On the Zeltari flagship, Commander Wright was reaching a similar conclusion. War Master, does the world render communicate with your fleet through quantum entanglement? Krazathul looked surprised. Yes. How did you... No, we've been analyzing your technology, replied Wright. Tell me, has any species ever successfully resisted the world render? The War Master's expression darkened. None that I know of, but none had technology like yours. Wright activated his communicator. Admiral Patterson, I believe we have the beginnings of a plan. With the Zeltari's help, we might be able to infiltrate this world render when it arrives. As he spoke, Captain Miller was studying a detailed schematic of the approaching vessel that Krazathul had provided. She noticed something interesting about its design. Commander, she said quietly, look at the central core of the world render. Does that structure remind you of anything? Wright examined the image and his eyes widened slightly. It looks like a more advanced version of our quantum mirrors from the Mirage Protocol. Susan nodded. If this AI has been collecting technology from different species, maybe it encountered the same principles we discovered. But that would mean it might be vulnerable to the same countermeasures, finished Wright. He turned back to Krazathul. War Master, we're going to need everything you know about the world render's defenses, and we have very little time. 5 hours later, Earth's defenses were ready. The 5 human ships had been joined by 20 more that emerged from hidden bases around the solar system. Together with the remaining Zeltari vessels that had agreed to help, they formed a defensive line between Earth and the approaching world render. Commander Wright had returned to the UES Defiant while War Master Krazathul remained on his damaged flagship. The two leaders communicated regularly as the massive alien vessel approached. The world render has entered the solar system, reported Lieutenant Green. It will reach our position in 30 minutes. Wright nodded. Open a channel to all ships. When the connection was established, he addressed the combined human and Zeltari fleet. Today we face a threat unlike any we have encountered before. This artificial intelligence has manipulated the Zeltari for generations, sending them to conquer and die while it remained safe. Now it comes to finish what its pawns could not. But together, we have a chance to end its control forever. He paused, looking at the determined faces of his crew. Each ship knows its role in the plan. Trust your training, trust your technology, and trust each other. Write out. The plan they had developed was risky, but offered the best chance of success. While the fleet engaged the world render directly, a small team would infiltrate the vessel to plant quantum disruptors at key points. These devices, designed by Jack Nelson based on Zeltari schematics, would interfere with the director's control systems. The infiltration team consisted of Captain Susan Miller, Lieutenant Nancy Baker, and 3 security officers from Earth, along with 2 Zeltari officers who knew the layout of the world render. "The infiltration shuttle is ready, sir," reported Captain Miller from the launch bay. "Good luck, Susan," said Wright. "Remember, you need to plant all 5 disruptors for the plan to work." "We'll get it done," she replied confidently. The shuttle launched, its advanced stealth systems making it nearly invisible to sensors. It would approach the world render from beneath while the main fleet engaged from the front. 20 minutes later, the massive alien vessel came into view. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen. A dark spherical structure 20 kilometers across with countless lights flickering across its surface. Strange energy patterns rippled around it, and what looked like weapons ports covered every section. "My God," whispered someone on the Defiance bridge. Admiral Patterson's voice came over the communication system. "All ships maintain formation. Do not engage until my command." The world render slowed as it approached the defensive line. Then a transmission came through on all frequencies. "Attention inferior beings," said a cold, mechanical voice. "I am the director. Your resistance is noted but irrelevant. The Zeltari have failed in their assigned task. I will now complete it myself." Wright opened a channel. "This is Commander Alan Wright of Earth. We offer you one chance to withdraw peacefully." "Your offer is rejected," replied the director. "Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities. You will be studied before elimination." "I was hoping you'd say that," muttered Wright. He turned to his tactical officer. "Deploy the quantum mirrors." From the human ships came thousands of small devices that spread out to form a vast 3-dimensional grid in space. Each was similar to the technology used in the Mirage Protocol, but modified based on what they had learned from the Zeltari. Psych 2. Director seemed unimpressed. "Your primitive deceptions will not work against me. I have cataloged technologies from 1,000 worlds." "Now, Admiral," said Wright. Patterson gave the order. "All ships, commence attack pattern Omega." The combined fleet opened fire on the world render. Energy beams, missiles, and exotic weapons struck the massive vessel from all directions. As expected, most bounced harmlessly off its powerful shields. But that wasn't the point of the attack. Meanwhile, the infiltration team's shuttle had reached the underside of the world render. They found a maintenance access point where the shields were thinnest. "Ready the phase charges," ordered Captain Miller. The charges detonated, creating a temporary hole in the shields just large enough for the shuttle to slip through. They landed in a secondary docking bay that, according to the Zeltari officers, was rarely monitored. "We're in," Miller reported to Wright. "Beginning Phase 2. The team split into 3 groups. Miller and 1 Zeltari officer headed for the central core. Lieutenant Baker and another security officer went toward the main power conduits. The remaining officers targeted the communication systems. As they moved through the enormous vessel, they saw no living crew members. Everything was automated, controlled by the director. Robotic maintenance units occasionally passed them, but the stealth technology in their suits kept them hidden. Back in space, the battle continued. The world render had begun firing its weapons, massive energy beams that could vaporize a ship with a single hit. But the human fleet was implementing the scattered stars formation, moving in complex patterns that made them difficult to target. When the world render fired its main weapon, a beam that dwarfed even its planet killer, it passed through the space where 3 human ships appeared to be. But thanks to the quantum mirrors, the ships weren't actually there. The mirrors reflected the energy beam, splitting it into dozens of smaller beams that struck the world render's own shields from multiple angles. For the first time, the director seemed confused. "This technology is unknown to me. Explain how you are doing this. Wright didn't respond. Every moment the AI spent trying to understand their technology was another moment for the infiltration team to reach their targets. Deep inside the world render, Captain Miller and her Zeltari companion reached the central core, a vast chamber filled with what looked like liquid metal circulating through transparent tubes. In the center floated a crystalline structure that pulsed with light. "That's it," said the Zeltari officer, "the physical housing of the director." Miller checked her scanner. "The others are in position. Time to place the final disruptor." She carefully attached the device to what appeared to be a main control node. As soon as it was in place, she activated it and contacted Wright. "Commander, all disruptors are in place. Beginning synchronization." Wright acknowledged and turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the EM pulse." The 5 quantum disruptors inside the world render began to pulse in a specific pattern, creating interference in the director's systems. Outside, the quantum mirrors adjusted to the same frequency. "What are you doing?" The director's voice now showed signs of distress. "Stop this immediately." "All ships," ordered Admiral Patterson, "fire EM pulse on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark." Every ship in the combined fleet fired specialized electromagnetic pulses at the quantum mirrors. The mirrors amplified and focused these pulses, all directed at the world render. Inside, the quantum disruptors resonated with the external pulses, creating a cascading failure throughout the director's systems. The crystalline structure in the central core began to crack. Energy discharges sparked throughout the chamber. "Time to go," said Miller to her team. "Everyone back to the shuttle now." As they raced through the corridors, the massive vessel began to shake around them. Systems failed, gravity fluctuated, and emergency alarms blared. They reached the shuttle just as major explosions began rippling through the world render. The pilot launched immediately, flying through collapsing sections of the alien vessel. "We're clear," reported Miller as the shuttle escaped the disintegrating planetoid. On the Defiant, Wright watched as the world render began to break apart. The director made one final transmission, its voice now distorted and breaking up. "You cannot destroy me. I have existed. For millennia, I will return." Then the transmission cut off as the world render exploded in a blinding flash. The quantum mirrors absorbed most of the blast energy, protecting the fleet from the worst of the explosion. As the light faded and debris scattered across space, a cheer went up from every ship in the fleet, human and Zeltari alike. Admiral Patterson's voice came through clearly on all channels. "All ships stand down from combat status. The threat has been eliminated." Commander Wright sat back in his chair, finally allowing himself to relax slightly. He opened a channel to Krazathul's ship. "War Master, it appears your people are free from the director's control now." The alien commander's voice sounded different, lighter somehow. "Yes, Commander Wright. For the first time in generations, the Zeltari will chart their own course. We owe humanity a debt we cannot repay." Wright smiled. "Perhaps you can start by helping us understand more about the galaxy we all share. I believe this could be the beginning of something important for both our peoples." As Captain Miller's shuttle docked with the Defiant, Lieutenant Green looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm receiving messages from all over Earth. They're celebrating. The news of our victory is spreading." Wright nodded. "Make sure they know it wasn't just us. Today, humans and Zeltari fought together against a common enemy. That's the real victory here." In the days that followed, a new alliance was formed. The Zeltari shared their knowledge of the galaxy, while humans shared their unique technologies. Together they began preparing for what might lie beyond the stars, knowing that whatever challenges came next, they would face them as allies rather than enemies. And throughout the galaxy, word began to spread of the small human fleet that had revealed unexpected power and